Steve, and he's Fred Grandy.
And only I will be at the CPAC convention on Friday. We'll be live there doing the Grandy group, and our guest host will be Steve King, which leads into our very important guest right now, Andrew Breitbart, back in the house with a very important press conference that somehow connects with our friend Steve King. Explain that.
Well, Pigford, the black farmers settlement, has become my obsession for the last 7 months. I live in a soundbite world on the internet. Anything beyond 30 seconds, my ADD can't handle it. Yet, for the last 7 months, I've become obsessed with the most complicated story known to humankind, called the Pigford settlement, and it's
for black farmers.
It's born out of the Shirley Sherrod incident,
of course, yeah.
And I didn't understand why I was hit upside the head for not 1 day, not 4 days, but 4 weeks. And people started to tell me, Rachel Maddow, not a fan of mine, her show tells me that I defeated the black farmers settlement in what happened with Shirley Sherrod. I said, what does this have to do with the black farmers settlement? I started to look at it. They pulled out the $1.15 billion in Pigford 2 the same week they fired Shirley Sherrod. She was set to make $13.3 million in it, and didn't want to draw attention to who she was as relates to Pigford. So I had to research this to figure out why I got hit as hard as I did, and I came to realize that the actual black farmers that Barack Obama says were meant to get justice in the Pigford settlement, almost to a farmer, almost to a person, were screwed over in it. They lost their land. Yet a class of individual called the attempted to farmer, people who have never farmed in their lives, got $50,000 checks. Steve King was accused by using the word reparations on the House floor, saying that this is reparations, and he was excoriated and attacked as a racist. Well, we went undercover into the black churches where the head of the Black Farmers and Agriculturists Association teaches people how to lie, how to perjure themselves in order to get their $50,000 check. And we're going to have a press conference to show it. And this will vindicate Steve King, because we have audio here today where the head of the Black Farmers and Agriculturists Association, Thomas Burrell, tells people that this is about reparations.
So I agree with you. It sounds like reparations, but it's kind of I suppose with inflation, the new variation of 40 acres and a mule, right, that Al Sharpton all talks about?
Well, actually, Judge Paul Friedman, who we've tried to contact, he's a federal judge in Washington, D.C., wrote the consent decree. The first paragraph of the consent decree is 40 acres and a mule and an apology for slavery.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
So, but we actually have black farmers who were supposed to get this money, but never got the money. And you have talked to these black farmers, and they're very upset by it, I imagine.
Well, imagine how awkward it is for me to have to call up after being called a racist and a slaveholder by Shirley Sherrod and her attorney, Rose Sanders, and starting to call up some of these black farmers, and each of them told me right away, when I told them who I was, they said, "Oh, we have no problem with that. Shirley Sherrod is part of our problem. She got the money. She was the fox guarding the hen house. She got the money, and she worked for the Pigford Monitor, which was basically the auditor of the entire situation." So it's a complicated story, but I will tell you this: the black farmers, and the audio will tell you this. They tell you that if you farmed, you're not going to get your money. So these guys, in good faith, entered this lawsuit. A lawyer by the name of Al Pires, without consulting them, changed the nature of the settlement to make it so that the black farmers got screwed over, and a new group of people, in a class of 18,000 black farmers in the entire country, there are now 94,500 people trying to get $50,000 checks, and the only people that got screwed out of this were the actual black farmers.
And they were originally screwed by the Farmers Home Administration.
Yes,
that's where the problem began.
What the USDA did to these black farmers is unconscionable.
That goes back to when I was on the Ag Committee, Andrew. I mean, I can remember that there was nowhere near the kind of volatility that you're dealing with now. But the bottom line here is the final score is black farmers 0, lawyers, litigators, and political activists 1.
Yes.
At least until you turn this around.
The class action lawyers made tens of millions of dollars off of this, and it's very offensive, because when you talk to the black farmers, I live in Los Angeles. I don't spend a lot of time dealing with any farmers, let alone black farmers, and now I talk to them every day. They remind me of when you're watching the History Channel and you watch World War II veterans and you think you're losing a class of people that you can't afford to lose. These are the hardest workers in this country, and what the USDA did to them, and we have USDA whistleblowers who will testify before Congress to say that the USDA systematically eats up small farmers' land intentionally, puts them into loans that they can't handle. It's a demented game of Pac-Man, and they don't care about the human cost. And the black farmers are the hardest workers that I've ever met in my entire life.
All right, good stuff. You have thousands of websites. Okay, maybe not thousands, but you have several different websites. You've been involved with Drudge, and I didn't know this. You were involved with Arianna Huffington's website from the initial get-go. She just sold it apparently for $315 million. How much money are you going to get out of that, Breitbart?
Well, you know, the answer is zero, because I got out of there pretty quickly when I realized I couldn't be in the same room with so many Bush lied, people died. I'm like, I guess I lied too, because I was supportive of that war. Good for Arianna. I was her researcher back in the 90s when she was a conservative.
Right.
And so she and I have one of the great air-kiss relationships that America has ever known.
Okay.
And I'm glad that she did well for herself. And the money that I made from it at the very beginning, I used as the seed money for Breitbart.com and the sites that I have. So I have my independence. Arianna's now a bazillionaire, and good for her.
All right, if that site is worth $315 million, how much would one of your websites be worth, do you think, or Drudge's website be worth?
I don't know. I have 2 car payments and a mortgage. I don't live like a mogul. I kind of like, you know, I went to Costco one day in my late 20s, and I said, I saw 10 pounds of pine nuts for like $25, and I thought to myself, this is enough. The American middle class experience is way more than enough for me. So the idea of having $30 million, I wouldn't know what to do with it.
But let me ask you something about the deal, because obviously you've paid attention if you know Arianna. Of course, she's gone through a complete political metamorphosis, because I knew her back in the day when she was married to Michael Huffington. We served in Congress together.
Me too.
She was still working with Newt Gingrich. Okay, then
and me.
Yeah, but somehow she became a liberal, and I don't know if that was the Hollywood influence or money from other sources, but she successfully made that transition to the point now where I heard Alan West, a new member of Congress from Florida, saying she is going to be the kind of liberal doyen of the internet. Is that true, do you think? I mean, does she exercise that kind of power?
Look, I disagree with everything that has come out of Arianna's mouth since about the year 2000, but this is what you need to know about her. People that underestimate her and underestimate her intelligence lose every time.
Well, she's very bright. I know
she
that.
knows nothing about football, but if you gave her a playbook, she could coach a Pac-10 team in 2 weeks. It's just a strange aspect of who she is. She adapts to an environment like nobody I've ever met. She went from Greece as basically a peasant child to England. The first time that when I started working for her, she called me up once and she said, "Sweetheart, I'm coming from MSNBC. I'm in the traffic. My friend Benazir is downstairs. Could you go entertain her?" I said, "Benazir Bhutto?" "Oh, yes, we used to..."
As opposed to all the other
right. I said, she used to debate her. She was the head of the debating society at Cambridge, and Benazir was at Oxford, and they became friends then. Everywhere she's gone, she's risen through the ranks. Love her or hate her, she's formidable.
But does she have a political ideology underneath all of this, or is she just ability to essentially adapt to whatever situation she's in?
I think the last 5 years, this is just my read on it from afar, I think that she's felt constrained by being the Huffington Post leader, and that it's so left of center. And I think that this takes the straitjacket off of her, and now she can work within AOL and try and work with as many people as possible. I'm telling you, if you look at the comments section at the Huffington Post, these people are not looking for a more civil tone.
But really, I think that answers indirectly the question I asked Larry Kudlow yesterday about this. I said, why would they buy this? They're buying Arianna Huffington. They're not necessarily buying the Huffington Post.
It's a lot of money to buy Arianna Huffington.
But I mean, if she's as good as you say, you're obviously buying a franchise player.
Yeah, no, they're paying her a lot of money per year. I think they're paying her something like $4 million a year. Hey, by the way, I'm for hire out there if anybody out in Vienna, Virginia is listening.
All right. So, Andrew Breitbart's our guest. He's in the studio. We'll get to CPAC. We'll get to the big dust up there. And also maybe some things that happened at his hotel in the middle of the night. 8:15 on the Grandy.